Now let's try and get into the mindset of first century Rome. Not only did Rome own all the real estate around the Mediterranean basin, but it also had a narrative to explain how this wonderful state of affairs came to be. The Roman story stretched all the way back to the fall of Troy, which led the hero Aeneas, son of the goddess Aphrodite, to discover Italy. Sometime later, according to legend, the city of Rome was founded by Romulus, the son of the god Mars. Along with his brother Remus, he was miraculously raised by a she-wolf after having been abandoned as a baby. After a period of monarchic rule, Rome became a republic, which eventually devolved into a bitter civil war. The savior of Rome, Julius Caesar, was assassinated. His posthumously adopted son Octavian became its first emperor, Caesar Augustus. Augustus was widely praised for at last bringing peace. Upon his death in the year 14 CE, Augustus, like his father before him, was deified or worshipped as a god by his adopted son, the Emperor Tiberius. The worship of Augustus, and eventually all the emperors after him, the imperial cult as it is known today, eventually becomes a central part of Roman civic life. It might seem strange to us to think of walking into a church and seeing a statue of Barack Obama or Donald Trump on the altar, but to the Romans, it seemed perfectly reasonable to regard their leaders as divine. Never before had the world known such peace and prosperity, the Pax Romana, as it was called. This Roman peace was understood to be the peace of the gods, the Pax Deorum. By their great and magnificent virtue, Rome's emperors had brought to earth the peace and harmony that was believed to exist only in the heavens. Even while Augustus was alive, it wasn't unheard of for the Greek provinces in the east to refer to him as a god. A decree from the Greek assembly of the province of Asia, modern-day Turkey, proclaims that the start of the new year will be postponed until the birthday of Augustus, September 23rd. The reason for this momentous decision is as follows. The birthday of our God signaled the beginning of good news for the world because of him. There's a striking resemblance between this proclamation and the words of Jesus at the beginning of his public career. Notice how Jesus speaks of the coming of God's kingdom in precisely the same terms as the rest of the world spoke of the blessed state of affairs resulting from the reign of Rome's emperors. This is good news. So how would Mark's version of the good news have sounded in Roman ears? In a word, seditious. To announce the good news that God's kingdom is now here would have been seen by the Roman authorities as nothing short of rebellion. It would have been seen as the announcement of a new emperor. So let me sum up these two identity-forming narratives and suggest what might happen were they to collide. First, Israel saw itself as God's covenant people, chosen by the God of creation to be a part of the plan to set to rights the evil that had infected the world as a consequence of human rebellion. God would therefore not abandon Israel, but rescue it from oppression through the might of God's anointed king, the Messiah. Second, Rome also believed that it had been divinely anointed to usher in a golden age of peace and prosperity, the Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods. Unlike the Jews, who looked towards a future hope, the Romans believed that the golden age had already arrived, brought about by the virtue of their emperors. All the world should join them, therefore, in worshiping these divine men. Imagine the sort of train wreck when these two narratives collide, and you'll have a good idea of the sort of unrest that characterized first-century Roman Judea. The first 2 centuries of the Common Era saw numerous small conflagrations between the Jews and Rome, and several full-blown revolts, all inspired by messianic fervor. Judas the Galilean in year 6, Simon Bar Giora in the year 70, Simon Bar Kokhba in the year 135. All were killed by Rome, and their revolutionary movements fell apart. So in one sense, the story of Jesus is rather unremarkable. Just another failed messianic pretender from a people already acquainted with such disappointment. And yet, the author of Mark's Gospel invests the death of Jesus with a peculiar significance. Indeed, the death of Jesus in Mark presents us with a puzzle, to which we now turn. Mark is a story with a surprise ending. Now, granted, it's not much of a surprise to us anymore, but evidently, the empty tomb was quite a shock to the women who went there to find Jesus' body, so much so that they ran away in terror. But the empty tomb is not the only surprise. Indeed, Jesus' death itself presents us with a quandary. There's a long tradition of reading Mark, so to speak, in the shadow of the cross. That is to say, if one wants to understand the point of Mark, one must, above all, grasp the significance of Jesus' death. At the same time, I want to suggest that reading Mark strictly in the shadow of the cross is both reductive and misleading. That is, if we presume that the point of Jesus was solely to save sinners, and that Mark's point was solely to make sure that we understood that point, then we're going to miss a lot of what Mark has to say. For example, if Jesus' only purpose is to die, why does he spend so much time casting out demons? Why does he spend so much time healing people? Why does he teaching all the time? He's always telling stories about seeds and vineyards and robbing houses and even excrement. In other words, how do we make sense of both Jesus' death and his life? So let's frame our investigation of the text with these three questions. Why does Jesus teach, and what is his teaching about? Why does Jesus heal and forgive? And why does Jesus cast out